Welcome back. You're still watching SA Today, but the top story of this hour at the moment is not happening in South Africa, but it's happening in Zimbabwe, because a short while ago, the Constitutional Court in Zimbabwe confirmed the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission's announcement that Emmerson Mnangagwa had won the election, and as a result, he will now be inaugurated, likely within the next 48 hours. For more on this and what steps lie ahead for the president-elect, I'm now joined in studio by Acie Lumumba, who's a political strategist. Thanks very much for joining us. The last time I spoke to you, you talked about the burden of proof being with the MDC Alliance leader, Nelson Chamisa, and the court has said you didn't bring us that proof, and therefore we have to believe the decision of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, which is Emmerson Mnangagwa won the election.
I think, first of all, congratulations to everybody who participated. I think every legal expert that was in the Constitutional Court carried themselves with the highest degree of grace. They demonstrated to the world that Zimbabweans are perhaps the most gifted minds we have on the continent. But there was a task at hand, and the task was to validate a claim or an accusation that the opposition was making towards President Emmerson Mnangagwa's victory. The court had one job: to listen to what everybody had to say and make a decision based on a set of facts presented by especially the one who came with the accusation. This is the failure of MDC. They had a lot of confidence. Tabani Mpofu, I respect Tabani Mpofu. He had a lot of confidence, but not a lot of facts. He had a lot of passion, but not a lot of evidence. And this is ultimately, as the Chief Justice read out, where everything eventually crumbled. Had the courts not allowed the world to see what happened today, we would have had many versions of what took place today. So I am so proud that my country was able to stand up to the world and demonstrate that we truly are moving on to a next page now, and we've gone past the Robert Mugabe era. You're going to have to give the country a chance. You can't keep saying every single move the country does, Mnangagwa does, is wrong just because Robert Mugabe belonged to the same political party he did.
All right, so mistakes were made, and one will wonder why they didn't order a recount and didn't collect all the V11 forms. Why do you think they made that mistake?
I think because it was immaturity on the side of the opposition. They just didn't understand the level at which they were playing at now. They thought that an argument suffices proof, that if I speak well and I tell you a lot of words, it validates or it is equal to proof. I mean, MDC announced the result and said we had flawless evidence from before the results were even announced, but when it came time to provide the evidence, they failed. The trouble is they were learning from the wrong playbook. The Kenyatta, the Raila Odinga playbook is not a good playbook to learn from. What they should have done, what Nelson Chamisa should have done is counted his losses and counted his gains. He was able to gain more votes than Morgan Tsvangirai ever got in his best form. I think we must congratulate Chamisa for that. He was able to capture the youth vote. He's got 1.3 reinforcement of youth votes coming into the election before the next election cycle. So there is a lot to take away here and say, congratulations, you have played well. What he shouldn't do is fall into the trap Africa is in, where we say, no, it's not a true result until I win. Nelson Chamisa did well, but President Emmerson Mnangagwa simply did better this time around.
All right, so as with these courts, what happens is the burden of proof was with the applicant. There were irregularities that were brought before the court, allegations that were made, and they may have been true. And so the concern might be is although they couldn't prove it, that they were true. How do you then convince those people that lost that it's okay, that's the law?
I think it is highly unfair to say that the proof shows anything otherwise than what we saw in court, because if it did, you should have brought it. But more importantly, MDC was able to do a clean sweep of most of the urban areas. What this tells us is they maintained their strongholds. They were able to penetrate into the rural areas. Understand, in the last election, ZANU-PF had 2.1 million votes. They didn't go much higher than that. Whereas in the last election, MDC had 1.2 million votes. They literally have doubled their victory. They did well. Anything else they try to say now, they are behaving like sour losers. What they ought to do, if you look at any sport in the world, is the person who loses, who goes to the front of the net, shakes the hand and says conciliatory messages, I just didn't do good enough this time. but I'll practice better. The trouble is MDC then thought there was an alternative political program. They've spoken about it. They've announced it. This is what caused the August 1st event. But the reality of the matter is you don't judge elections based on what happens in court, based on what you think. You judge them based on the voter who showed up on the day to vote.
All right. So if what you're saying is true, that they've really performed well, just not enough, does that mean Emmerson Mnangagwa is a one-term president? If we use the numbers that the youth are the biggest population in the country, and there'll be 5 more years of people turning 18 by the next election. And if Chamisa is someone who can capture the youth vote, that means he's going to be the next president if he's still around.
Perhaps so. And that is why we go to elections every 5 years, so that everybody can contest their ideas before the Zimbabwean people, and the Zimbabwean people can make their choice. But let me tell you something about President Emmerson Mnangagwa. From the day this man was a teenager, and since he was a teenager, he decided to go to war. They told him he would die in the war. They arrested him and wanted to send him to prison for life, hung him upside down a pole as he sacrificed his life for our country. They told him he wasn't going to make it. They told him he was unelectable. They have told this man he couldn't do everything that he has done. Now they say to the man, no, you cannot win this election because we'll beat you in court. He's won. All this man has done his whole life is defy odds. I reckon, and I put my money on this, Zimbabweans are the ones who are going to build Zimbabwe. President Emmerson Mnangagwa is going to lead the process, and I hope Nelson Chamisa plays his part by always giving us the alternative plan to what is offered. Not violence, not incitement, but an alternative plan of programs on how do you think we can make Zimbabweans' lives better, not how do you think we should fight and die for your cause.
So let's say he gets inaugurated on Sunday. What does President Mnangagwa do from Monday onwards, given all the stakeholders that he needs to manage? There's the army, there's the opposition, there is the more than, well, the 50% of people that didn't vote for him, just under 50%. What does he do to put all of this together?
I think one of the greatest tasks of leadership is not how many good ideas you can come up with, but how do you manage the ideas that are already coming to you? That's his single greatest task. President Emmerson Mnangagwa now has to demonstrate reform further than he has already demonstrated. We've seen him reform the media sector. We've seen him reform the legal justice system, Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. All security chiefs that were in office when he took over are now not in office as of the time we went to the elections. He now has to demonstrate to the world that I have unclenched my fist and I'm willing to shake your hand. America has just reinforced their sanctions. He has to deal with that. South Africa remains our largest trading partner. We have a lot of Zimbabweans who are currently living, working, and studying in South Africa. We have to make a plan on how do we repatriate our talent back home. Zimbabwe is like a house of bricks. Everybody is holding a brick. President Mnangagwa is holding his brick too. Now we must make a choice as a nation. Do we use this brick that me and you hold to throw at each other, or do we use these bricks to build a house? That's the task President Emmerson Mnangagwa has, not to come up with ideas, but to actually manage the brilliant ideas we have coming out of Zimbabweans. All
right, Acie Lumumba, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thanks very much indeed for your insights. And some would say you called it, and it's all come to pass.
I never called it wrong, did I? I have never called it wrong.
Thanks very much indeed.